constitutional requirement. In fact, Article 78(1) of the 1992 Constitution says that ministers of state shall be appointed by the president with the prior approval of parliament from among members of parliament. So the approval of parliament is a prerequisite for one to become a minister. Now, the vetting process or the vetting is one of the processes that will lead to the approval being given or not given. But it is a prerequisite for one to become a minister of state, even though the president is one clothed with authority to do the nomination. Not until the person is approved by parliament, he or she cannot be sworn in by the president as minister. Right. And that is why even in the outstanding orders, there's the procedure through which a nominee can be rejected or approved. So where a nominee is recommended for rejection on the floor, if the nominee is not able to pull more than 50+1 of the votes, members present and voting, that nominee is said to have been rejected by the House, and the Speaker of Parliament will have to write to the President to change, to make a new nomination. Right. So it tells you that the vetting process is critical. It's important. It's not just to tick a box. It's not just for the cameras. It is actually a prerequisite for one to become a minister of state. But
I mean, this argument has come up, and I've heard constitutional lawyers make this argument. At least two constitutional lawyers I've heard speak about the fact that disqualification in the process is constitutionally not possible. That there are specific, very specific, boxes to tick as to how you can disqualify somebody. And those requirements, virtually everybody who is nominated or has ever been nominated by the president qualifies. It is impossible for anybody to go against the requirements. And so disqualification constitutionally is an impossibility. What would you say to that?
I don't think that is what the framers of the Constitution had in mind when they set out to guide the process of choosing and approving a minister of state. I believe that the approval that is required gives room for reasons to be given, if any is adduced, for the rejection of a nominee. Yes, I understand when the lawyers speak of the constitutional limitations that members of parliament may have in rejecting or approving a minister. But like I said, that is just the latter. And the latter, it talks about qualification to become a minister. It's that simple. You just need to have been a member of parliament or have qualification to be a member of parliament. It's that simple. For you to be a minister, the Constitution says that you should come from parliament or should have the qualification to go to parliament. And then there should be no adverse findings, no criminal records on you and all that. Those are set out, criteria in the Constitution. But I liken it to a job interview. When an advertisement is put out, the requirements are given. Right. You may have all the requirements and still go and not be picked. You can go for the interview, have all the requirements advertised, but you may still not meet the expectation of the interviewing panel. It may be because you are uncouth. It may be because you didn't dress well, or you didn't address the questions that were put to you well. But on paper, you would have ticked all the boxes in the advert for the job. You have a first degree, a first class, and you have 3 years working experience. You will have all the qualifications set out, but you can still go and after the interview, you'll be disqualified. So I want to believe that the framers of the Constitution, knew that there can still be a way through which a minister nominee or designate can be disqualified. I don't think it is just cast in stone.
Right.
And over the period, I recall the experience of Dr. Ekospio Gabra. Yes, his was constitutional. It had to do with citizenship, and so he was disqualified. And that was even interesting. That was at a time that the Parliament of Ghana was controlled by the NDC. In fact, there was only one, I think, independent or PNC member of Parliament. The rest of them were all NDC members of Parliament. But they still found it necessary to disqualify him.
Right.
Yeah, and many others have gone through, very tedious vetting processes, even though many have not led to disqualification. But issues of morality, issues of even truthfulness,
right.
That's still related to morality anyway. But and issues of criminality, even when it is not proven, but during the vetting process, one is able to demonstrate that the nominee may be standing trial for some omissions or commissions in his or her past life. I don't see how, after a vetting process, you're able to demonstrate somebody's culpability in a crime. You can't still, recommend that the person not be passed.
Right.
Yeah. So I think that is why the process is there. You go to Parliament, the vetting, the appointments committee vets you, then they determine whether the House should approve you or not. That is still constitutional. And it is within the right of Parliament to approve, or if there's a word like that, disapprove. You. You get it? And that is also still within the law.
From what you're saying, then it is possible to disapprove a nominee.
It is perfectly possible.
Right.
If Parliament decides through voting that the president's nominee is not fit to occupy that position, that's not an illegal conduct.
Right.
That is a conduct or a process that the Constitution itself, has identified and has agreed to be the procedure to appoint a minister. So it's not an illegality if, during the parliamentary process, it ends in the nominee being rejected. That is also still legal in my view, and I don't see how that would be unconstitutional.
Yes. Right. So let's speak about these three nominees. Well, presently ministers.
Yes.
Whose nomination, vetting, and approval became so contentious. Now, the points a lot of people raise is that some of the nominees were approved unanimously, by consensus. And then, you saw reason to refer some others to the floor of Parliament for rejection.
Right.
Using the right terminologies as aided by yourself, Honorable, for rejection.
Right.
So, invariably, by this process of referring some to the floor of Parliament for rejection, you tell us instantly that you have issues with these three nominees, that they are outstanding issues.
Yeah.
Other than that, they would have gone through the consensus process of getting approval as well.
Yes.
Okay, so perhaps let's start with the process. Let's start with the process first. And you can tell us why, for instance, these three people did not get approved via consensus, and why you felt there was a need for them to have gone through rejection, via the floor of Parliament. So take it one at a time, the process itself, and then the why.
Okay, so this is how it happens. After the vetting of a nominee, members of the committee sit to take a decision on the nominee. A decision to either pass the nominee or to reject the nominee. Now, there are three ways of taking the decision. The decision can turn out to be approval by consensus. It can also be by majority decision, and it can also be by a unanimous decision. So after vetting, we sit down as a committee, and each member, like it happened in the past during the 7th Parliament, is asked what his or her view is on the nominee.
Right.
Approve or reject. Now, at the end of that, you determine if majority of people say the person should be approved, then the chairman writes the report, which we all go through and debate on the floor, and the question is put. This time, what we did was that we decided not to take decisions on the nominees until we had vetted some good number of them,
Right.
so that we will sit down and review. So all the nominees that appeared after vetting, we just left because it was packed.
Right.
So we just left after vetting to prepare for the next day. When we got to about 30 nominees, then we decided to now sit and take a decision on it.
On all 13?
On all 30, 3-0.
Right.
So on our side, as a minority group, we had a meeting and decided to take our decisions en bloc as a group and not as individuals, like I explained happened in the 7th Parliament. We decided to take our decision as a group on each nominee. So we then had to discuss among ourselves the nominees that appeared before us. If any member had issues with any nominee, you put it on the table and you canvass support from your colleagues to base on that reason to reject or approve the person. So in the end, the decision was that our decisions on every nominee will be based on our group decision. So that is how come we arrived at 3 sets. We had those that we all agreed to reject. There were 3. Those that we had issues with, but upon discussing among ourselves, we still thought those issues, if given a second chance, could be addressed by the nominees. Failure to do so, they would be rejected. So we put those in the category of suspension. They were suspended, or were on the suspension list. Then we had those that we didn't have any issue with and thought they were fit to be ministers. We approved unanimously, based on consensus. So we then asked our leadership to communicate that to the chairman of the committee.
Right.
So the chairman of the committee was told by our leadership that, look, these 3 people, our group wants them to go to the floor for a vote to be taken on their nomination.
Sorry to cut you. At this point, were you confident that these 3 people could possibly be rejected?
We were.
Right. Okay.
We were definitely confident that they could be rejected. So as appointments committee members, we had done the vetting, and as a group, we had come to the conclusion that 3 of the nominees we had vetted that far did not deserve to be ministers of state. The 3 were Kojo Ponkurma, the Agric Minister, Okoto Afriye, and then Hawa Kumsen.
Right.
As appointments committee, NDC members, that was our decision, communicated to the chairman. The second list contained Osla Owusu and
I have a list.
Help me with the list.
I have the
yes,
list.
The road minister of Foriata, Amoakwata.
Yes. Kweku Forio Siama. John Peter Mewu.
Exactly.
Cecilia Bernard Dapa. Mohammed Ibrahim Awal.
Yeah. No, I don't think they were those that we approved on consensus.
These are the ones that you approved.
On consensus, yes. So those that we suspended, so that's the point. Let me continue. I'm sure we'll find the name. So they were to be suspended. Then we had this list of people we had approved based on consensus. So the report was done, and the report was laid on the floor. Now, we were confident that our colleagues who were with us, especially our NDC colleagues, were going to vote to reject the three. We're also confident that some of the members of the MPP were also even going to join us, because you see, we were very careful about the list that we prepared. We were not flimsy with our reasons. We were not doing it based on very flimsy reasons. Let me just put it that way. I mean, for somebody like Howard Kumson, we thought that if for nothing at all, the fact that she apologized during the vetting and claimed responsibility for the shooting that took place, and also indicated that investigations were underway, if for nothing at all, we thought that as a committee or as a country, it will be appropriate for all of us to wait for the investigations to finish before she's considered for any ministerial position. If the investigations eventually cleared her, the president could still nominate her again. We also thought that her apology was not backed by actions we thought she should have taken to convince us that they were really meant. For example, visiting some of the victims of, the violence in the constituency. And and many other things. I mean, we listed those things, and they were captured in the report as reasons why we didn't think she should be a minister of state. Now, for the agric minister, we pointed to abuse of office. In the case where he brought a classmate who used to work with Cocoa Board and went on retirement as deputy chief executive. And when he was appointed minister of agric, he brought this friend of his from retirement, asked Cocoa Board to take him back as deputy CEO. Cocoa Board resisted and gave reasons why they couldn't take him back with the same entitlements that he used to enjoy before he went on retirement. Then he created an office for him in his office as minister, special advisor on cocoa affairs. Special advisor on cocoa affairs, and instructed Cocoa Board to give him all entitlements reserved for deputy CEO. And that is the conditions of service under which his classmate works or has worked in the last 4 years. Complete abuse of power or office. Then there was an issue involving two companies at Gapoha. Now, government of Ghana through the Ministry of Agric rehabilitated a facility at Gapoha to be used for exporting horticultural products. Now, this facility was given to one company known as FTC, Fruit Terminal Company, to manage. Around 2015, the process of exporting fruits or horticultural products go beyond just the facility that was renovated by the Agric Ministry. But because the Agric Ministry renovated it, they have control over it. So they awarded its management to this FTC company.
Right.
But the port activities that leads to exportation, like haulage, is still under Ghana Ports Authority. So Ghana Ports Authority also entered into a concession with another company called Fruit Export Terminal Company, FETC, to do the, if you like, the haulage, a concession. And as part of the concession, the company was supposed to build some offices for Gapoha and do some other things for Gapoha, which they did around 2015, costing about $30 million. Now, this minister, with power going in the wrong directions, just decided to terminate the contract between Gapoha and this other company, FETC, and directed Gapoha to hand over their job to this FTC.
Right.
Just like that. Despite warnings from Gapoha that, look, first of all, the agreement you are referring to, you know, doesn't exist. This company you want us to terminate their business with us will sue us for a judgment debt because they have already done this and that for us. He didn't care.
Right. So with him, the issue had to do with abuse of office.
Yes, yes.
Right.
And some other suspected corrupt activities, like the issue involving AMG company and others. So we raised all these issues, and we thought that they should be investigated. Then you had Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah.
Right.
Kojo Oppong-Nkrumah's case involved his private businesses, MX24 television, which he was not forthcoming with information. He was a bit elusive, evasive, you know, when questions about MX24 came up, and the ownership and directorship and all that. He was evasive, and we thought that wasn't very appropriate. And then again, he had a microfinance company, Oval Finance.
Right.
And he also had another company, Brownstone. And the microfinance was among the microfinance companies that the Bank of Ghana shut down for lack of liquidity. Now, it turned out from our records that we were able to get from the Bank of Ghana that there was some third-party lending that took place.
Right.
And so we didn't think that it was fair for others to be undergoing prosecution in this country for similar offenses. And for someone, even if he's not undergoing prosecution for that offense, to get nominated to become a minister. So those were some of the issues we raised with him. So these were reasons that we thought that the House, not just the NDC members, will rally around to support.
Okay, so this meeting that was had for all of these reasons to be tabulated, was it a meeting of all of the minority side or a representation of the minority side?
We are a representation of the minority side on the appointments committee.
Right.
That is, all of us cannot be members of the appointments committee. So it is expected that a cue will be taken from the direction.
Those of you who are on the appointments committee. Now, were these decisions that were taken communicated to the rest of your colleagues as your fellow minority? These decisions that those of you on the appointments committee took?
Amma, I've said somewhere that in order not to have to go into the details where in the end you will have to blame some people and exonerate others, I've said on other platforms that we regret what happened.
No, but
and
it happened. Then we'll come to the regret.
And it happened. I'm coming. And it happened. I'll explain to you. I'll tell you why I'm saying that.
Right.
We regret what happened, and happened because of some considerations and some confusion between party leadership and leadership in Parliament. We regret that it happened, but I'm saying that what happened because the way I see it, there was some considerations and there was also some confusion between party leadership and leadership in Parliament. Now, that is why, for example, I am unable to speak to the question of whether we pass on these decisions to
your colleagues,
to our colleagues who were on the minority side, because there were, I'll just go into one.
Right.
The last meeting that we had before we went into the chamber did not end well.
Right.
And this was a meeting that I'm sure all of these would have been discussed. But the confusion I speak of between party leadership and leadership in Parliament made it impossible for even the minority members who were not on the committee to be appropriately briefed on the decisions that the appointments committee members had reached and why they had reached those decisions and why they should support it on the floor. So we have learned very useful lessons out of this. And I am very, very confident that the reaction that has greeted our failure to, reject some of these nominees will continue to guide our future decisions. The reactions, though some of them have been extreme, but they have been useful. They have been very, very useful. And I can see those reactions guiding our actions, as members of Parliament, especially on the NDC side, moving forward.
Going forward.
Yeah.
And you've already answered my question as to what happened.
Right.
I think you have, or you've tried to
I've
diplomatically answer. I still have a lot of questions, but I will be nice.
Thank you.
It is you.
Thank you.
But I still have a few questions I think I should ask.
Right.
For instance, in asking, what happened, this issue about a shift in position. If we've taken a position to reject, at what point did we now take a decision to approve? And here is a very simple question. Was a decision taken at any point to approve?
No. There was no decision at any point, at least on the three. On the three that were to be rejected, the appointments committee didn't review its decision. And the report, I have a copy in my car, I could have brought it for you. The report that was debated upon recommended their approval by majority decision. And maybe that is where I have to explain.
Please explain.
You see, when the committee makes a recommendation, the recommendation can be approved by consensus or by majority decision. It can be approved by consensus or by majority decision. That has always been the reporting style of the committee. Majority decision being majority group decision or majority party position. Because, you see, in the past, we didn't have equal numbers on the appointments committee. The membership usually is determined by the number of seats that each party has. So in the past, you had a situation where maybe if the NDC is the majority, they will have more members on the appointments committee. If the NPP is in government and has majority, they have more members on the committee. So even if as minority, you reject a nominee, the report will still say approved by majority decision, because
Right.
then the party in government will have the majority, so the report will say approved by majority decision. That is without the approval of the minority group. When the minority group approves, it is approved by consensus.
Right.
But when the minority group refuses, it is approved by majority decision.
But you see,
so some people misunderstood the report, which said approved by majority decision, to mean that we had changed our positions on the 3 nominees that we wanted to reject.
Honorable, here, I may disagree with you to the extent that with the present parliaments that we have and the numbers, indeed, if we say approved by majority, it means approved by majority. Because you need for NDC members of parliament to vote.
That's where there was...
Because let's look at the specific figures. I didn't want us to do that. But let's look at the specific, figures. And the one that shocks me most would be the one for Madam Mavis Howard-Kumson, where she had as much as 161 years votes. So obviously, correct me if I'm wrong, at the very least, we had over 23 NDC MPs votes for her, at the very least. That's if some MPP members of parliament were not present, then the numbers could even go higher.
Yeah.
And I'm sure the numbers would go higher if we do an actual, right?
Well, it's a sad situation. Like I have tried to explain, the committee decision was for them to be rejected.
Right.
Now, the report recommended to the House to approve by majority decision. Now, if you followed the debate that day, even the leaders on our side had to concede at some point that perhaps their communication to the chairman of the committee created a problem, because on the committee we didn't have a majority group on the committee because we're 13-13. But because of past practice, and because the speaker himself had declared that the MPP group, the MPP plus the independent person, was forming the majority group, and because of past practice, where the people in government always form majority, the chief whip and the leader, in communicating to the chairman, said, we are not part of this 3, we won't approve them, so carry your report as majority report. Now, some of them also interpreted it to mean that some members on our side may have voted at the committee for this 3, and that is why it didn't happen. That's why I told you that at the committee level, we members of the NDC decided to take decisions en bloc.
Right.
So you didn't have a situation where a member will even disagree with the group.
It was all of you.
It was all of us taking a decision. But I agree with you. When it came to voting, we lost,
Why?
Committee, I will take it that.
But let's talk about the why. Why do you think this happened? Why do you think NDC members of parliament voted the way that they did? The few who voted for the...
I actually wish I could tell you why. For me, as a member of the appointments committee, I know why we decided that these people be rejected. I know why, even though I may not share some details, some had to be moved to the suspension list. I know why we decided to approve some by consensus. But I can't understand why some members on our side decided to go against the recommendation that we members of the appointments committee brought to the House.
You heard it was money.
I don't know, but it will be very, very sad and disappointing.
We've heard for some others it was contracts.
Again, it will be very, very sad if any of the considerations were that petty and selfish. Because, look, this wasn't a joke for some of us. We had spent sleepless nights, long hours of research. There were times we left Parliament at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., just working on getting the very best and helping, if for nothing at all, our party to put its good foot, forward.
It's best
in
foot
serving,
forward.
yes, it's best foot forward in serving the interests of Ghana. That is what it was all about for us. So it will be very, very sad for anybody to have considered such petty, selfish reasons to vote for, a nominee that the committee members recommended for rejection. I don't want to believe.
Right. Do you know these people? Do you know them?
I don't, because it was secret voting.
Have you tried to know them?
Trust me, I don't even want. I've tried not to even remember or discuss this because it is so painful, and we know. Some of us, we know what we went through to even get where we got to. Maybe I'll tell you. Some of us wanted about 12 people rejected.
Right.
12. And we had good reasons for those 12 people. 12. But we still had to, listen to good advice, good counsel, more experienced people, tell you some of the reasons why you could, give some people a second chance to convince the committee. You understand?
Right.
And so we worked so hard to get to the point that we got to. And so it's so disappointing for us that we could not, in the end, get something out of it that we could tell. It was for this parliament is a history-making parliament.
Right.
It's a hung parliament. You don't know when again you are going to have such numbers in parliament. So you needed to make a mark and send the signal that this parliament will not be a rubber stamp.
Right.
To the business community, to civil society organizations, give them hope that if the media hasn't been able to hold the government accountable as we expect, if civil society is disregarded like we see under this administration, if we all think, whether fairly or unfairly, that the judiciary is compromised, at least let the legislature, given the numbers, give the people some hope that there's a place they can go to find, an arm that can hold the government in check, that can tell the president that as for this place, you won't have your way, it will be the way of the people of Ghana. So it's so disappointing that we lost that opportunity.
People are calling.
But I'm happy with the reaction.
Yes, we will talk about the reaction, but just this one before we come to the reaction. People are calling for, what's the word here? For those people to be fished out. People want to know. And here, let me ask a constitutional question about this secret voting. Because as a fallout from this one, I've held a position, rightly correct me, tell me what you think, that this secret voting thing is not helping us at all. Because if you are very convinced of your position, you are proud of the way you want to vote as a parliamentarian, come out and vote openly so that as your...
Yeah.
I can use that to judge if I'll vote for you again or not. For instance, if you feel proudly about the nomination of Hannah Akumsin and you want her to become a minister, I don't see why it should be secret. Come out and vote as an NDC member of parliament and say, I want Hannah Akumsin as a minister. So that next time, when you come to me again asking for my vote, I will take a decision as to whether you deserve my vote or not. So I am actually wondering if this secret voting thing, this constitutional requirement of a secret voting on the floor of parliament, does us good or does us evil?
Well, it's like the chicken and the egg. Which one is more important? Which came first? If you follow our proceedings in Parliament, many people complained about the whip system, right, that it does not allow members of Parliament to express themselves independently. It does not give you the chance to even disagree with your government when they bring a motion that you don't support, because the whip will be there to watch your vote and report you to higher authority. And because of the mixed system of governance that we are practicing, the legislature is sometimes very beholden to the executive,
right,
because majority of ministers are supposed to come from parliament. There are appointments to boards and others that the executive, is in control of and can use to manage its members of parliament. So some people thought the secret voting was a way of giving, people the opportunity to express themselves and their thoughts independently without any fear of retribution from their government or from their party.
Right.
So we have come a long way. Even though the constitutional requirement has always been secret voting, to be honest, it hasn't really been practiced that much until we use it to elect a speaker.
Right.
So if you disagree with secret voting, I'm telling you that we couldn't have had a speaker but for secret voting. A speaker from another political party. Because clearly, people from the party in government went against the president's choice to make Alban Bagbin the speaker.
Secret voting.
Courtesy secret voting. If they were to show their vote, especially at a time the president was yet to announce ministerial nominees, you think anyone was going to risk, being rejected from consideration?
The party pooper.
Exactly,
right.
exactly.
Right.
So no one was going to want to be the party pooper. So clearly, it has its merits and demerits. I think that, secret voting for now is the way to go. I am happy with the way, like I continue to say, people have reacted to this. I didn't expect anything less. I am just hopeful that it is going to guide us moving forward. Yes, some of the reactions have been extreme.
Let's talk about the reactions.
Some of them have been extreme.
Let's talk about the reactions, Honorable.
Yes.
So far, how has it been like? Are you, for instance, are you getting calls? Are people sending you messages? I'm interested, what has been the most extreme reaction so far? I want to know how we as Ghanaians are reacting to you. I'll tell you why. When the speaker nomination went the way it did, I personally called up some members of parliament that I know. Honorable, if I didn't call, it's because she didn't pick my call. Because I wanted to congratulate you individually, just to sort of urge you on. So I'm sure that you had calls like that, people praising you and urging you on and congratulating you. So I'm curious as to how we are reacting to you with this one as well. For you personally, what's been the worst so far?
Curses, insults, disappointments being expressed, and I understand all of them. I am happy people feel that way. It will forever remind me to uphold my principles and to know that people watch, people care. I don't get angry when people send me messages and texts on social media to curse us and to express their disappointment. I feel it's the way to go. It just shows that people care, and I like it when people care.
Do you think that it would affect you? Next elections. Do you think that this has the potential of affecting?
This is a collective matter. And I'm sure that even in expressing disappointment and, issuing out cases against the collective, people still know who is who. Right. People still know what we are capable of as individuals and as a collective. So I will not say it will not affect people during primaries or general elections. But I'm sure it will also depend on how we conduct ourselves from this point. Greatness, they say, doesn't come from never falling.
Right.
Yeah, it is what you do after you fall. So I see it as a collective failure. Even though, like I said, people will always know, because at the end of the day, the nominees who got passed, didn't get all NDC members voting for them. They just had 20 plus people when we are about 137. So it will be unfair on the majority of NDC MPs who voted the way the party expected them to vote, to just
suffer like the rest.
Yeah, like everyone else. Right. But because we are a team, because we are a group, we all take it, you know, and we all hope that moving forward, we are going to carry ourselves better, represent our conscience better and our constituents better, and do things that lovers of democracy will praise us like they did when we got the speaker elected. So we have, perhaps in this case, they will say we have tasted water and wine. So we now know the difference.
You know the difference. you know the difference. Let's talk about the NDC as a political party, because obviously you come from within a political system. Sami Gyamfi, you know, has reacted pretty harshly. You know, he's called out all the leaders in Parliament, from the Speaker to the Whip to the leader. He's called out all the leaders. He's called all of you. He's asking for a total overhaul, you know, of the leadership of the party. I think he's even taken it out of Parliament and brought it straight to the party office and called for a total overhaul. Do you think he's overreacting?
I don't think he's overreacting.
Right.
I've had a conversation with him. He could have done it better. I agree. And I think he agrees. On hindsight, he could have said it better. But under the circumstance, it was difficult for, perhaps as a leader of the party, for, you know, one to take in all the things that had happened. I mean, like I keep saying, it's not all the things that happened that you can even, you know, retell. But you know.
There are solid secrets,
you know,
and juicy information that will come back to
no, but you see, that's
perhaps
what I'm saying.
we'll have that conversation.
He could have, yes, he could have done it better. For example, I don't think he should have included names.
Right.
I don't think he should have included names. Like I keep saying, we did what we did, which disappointed a lot of people as a team, as a group, and maybe he could have come at all of us as a group, hard as he did, without mentioning names, without singling people out. I've made that point to him, and I'm sure he agrees with me. So apart from that, I think the reaction is it's normal. I mean, I've told people that every now and then you need such eruptions. Political parties are living organisms. So for them to grow, make amends, and get better, you need such eruptions. I believe in that. You need such eruptions. You know, they can be very uncomfortable sometimes, and that is why you can limit the discomfort by perhaps not even adding names. But you need such eruptions every now and then.
Do you think the NDC as a political party will suffer from this? People are talking about voter apathy. People actually say that voter apathy really affected the party, not in this election, but in the previous election, 2016. There was a lot of voter apathy. Yeah. And you seem to have just come out of that in 2020. People seem to think that with this, we are going back to voter apathy come 2024.
Well, it will be too early.
Right.
It will be too early. I know that, yes, a lot of people are disappointed, for example, in the way we handle the people who are in charge of security.
Right.
Because we know that the security played a key role in stealing our mandate in the last election. They killed some people, 14-year-old, 39-year-old people. For the first time during elections, we had to lose such valuable lives in an election, thanks to the security agencies that were in charge at the time. So one thing that you also notice was the courage of our supporters and our sympathizers, and I continue to say lovers of democracy, the courage that they displayed in standing up to these security people. I'm sure they did all of that, and we're hopeful that if even anything happened to them, they were going to find justice, because this is a democracy and, wrong shouldn't go unpunished. Now, we had the opportunity when some of these people were renominated, the Minister of Interior, the Minister of Defense, the National Security Minister, and they appeared before us. And I know that the fact that none of them came up for, if you like, to be considered for rejection or suspension disappointed many of our supporters, and that can be very discouraging,
right.
When next time you ask people to mobilize. But like I said, it's too early. Trust the members of parliament who got you a speaker when nobody expected it, to come back from this ashes.
Ali, you took us up and brought us down.
We will take you.
You took us up.
We'll take you up again.
In promoting this show, we put it up on Facebook and
Okay.
asked people to, ask questions as well. So I'll read a few of them out to you.
Right.
Then please take notes and address the ones that you
Right.
because of time, you might not be able to address
To
all
answer
of them.
Okay.
But just take note of. I'll give my pen.
I have one.
Right,
Thank
sure.
you.
Right. So Dusty Moto says, we don't really want to hear them, They led us on, just like how Supreme Court led the petitioner on to believe he could have a cross-examination, only for them to let us down. Interview some poet, musician, or maybe Obinim. He has more to say. Peter Ikum says, what good is he going to say? We don't take them serious anymore. They are corrupt. Gayinu Gung says, how did they collect their 5 million bribe? Did they receive it through bank accounts or tabletop? We need to know before we can think of forgiving them. Vincent Yakanu says, ask him, because of this, they will slap them again. They should remember that NDC members who voted for them have been mocked under mango trees, summer hats, etc. in the communities. Right. David Suokoro says it is easier for a camel to go through the needle's eye than for a politician to enter into the kingdom of God. That's Luke 18:25. Senior Kwesi says, right, Senior. Vincent says, ask him. Vincent, I think I've read this already. Okay. Alhaji Haruna says, we were thinking the NDC has powers on the appointment committee of parliament by rejecting nominees of the president. Right. But we were proven wrong. What happened? Daniel A. Populampo says, ask him if their 137 members are weak or if they are pursuing personal agenda. They performed better in the last parliament than this. Why? Gino Mingo says, Honorable, why did our NDC MPs approve those appointees of the president whom they flagged during the vetting on grounds of incompetence, perjury, and reckless behavior when they served in their first term of government? Dua Bazaar says, what happened to the reasons for the disapproval of the nominees for them to be later approved? The most annoying nominees were Hawa Kumson and Nitiwu. Right. Kunja Solomon says, why can't the NDC party be known for a particular principle upon which there is no compromise? Why do you people take issues so lightly, knowing very well the kind of people you are dealing with? Stephen No Limit says, what do you guys gain whenever you subject NDC supporters to public mockery and shame? Sal Daru says, ask him what he thinks the MPP in their position would have done. Babaladi says, our love for them has fallen drastically. We don't have interest in our MPs anymore until we see changes. Right. Okay, I think I've read these ones. Right, this is a personal question to you. He says, Honorable Suhini, why is it that Joe Wise always hates you at the vetting committee? Right, and he asked if you've ever dated his girlfriend. Right, this one says, he will walk out of your studio furiously because I will ask all the provocative questions. Right. He says, I would ask him why he voted for those the grassroots were against. Right. So most of these questions are not complimentary, Honorable. Most of the questions are not complimentary at all. I wanted to get to my own personal Facebook page, to ask you some of the questions. But let's go straight to the Facebook page of Pan African TV and see. Wow. Okay. So, right. Ken Walter says, disappointed NDC, I will not vote for them again. Jafat Kujo says, one of the cartel members of parliament is here to polish himself and his friends. Salma says, I'm not feeling this program. Nanani Mensa says, you are boring the NDC grassroots the more. Ken Walter says, I will never. They have disappointed us. 4 years will come soon. Comfort Owusu says, you approved Nitiwul and Co unanimously and think 3 members should have been rejected. Right. We don't do that here. Don't do that. Right. I see you all. Okay. Our people are very angry. Right. Okay. So a lot of them want, my goodness. Okay. So most of the questions has to do with the alleged bribery and the money. If you can shut that case down for once, because a lot of the questions are about how much did you take, how did you take it, and things like that. But you are saying on authority that you don't know if money was given.
I have no idea.
Right.
I can speak for myself, and I have said elsewhere that it is also unfair to accuse others of taking money and engaging in whatever may have led to us not succeeding at rejecting these ministers. I don't think that we should govern or proceed in building our party based on such peddling of information without really facts. It doesn't help the NDC. I mean, many of us are restrained not because we are guilty of anything, but because of our love for the NDC and because we know how some of our reactions can in the end cost the NDC and by extension cost our democracy. Because you see, if we do not have a strong National Democratic Congress as we speak, then you are going to have a new patriotic party that will,
have its
just get out of control, even worse than they already are today. And that is why many of us are restrained, and we will want to appeal to people to express their disappointment and their disgust, but not to go into areas that they are unable to substantiate, which has the potential of even destroying the NDC. And let me just maybe say that let us not think that everybody who is accusing people in the manner that the accusation is going is really an NDC person.
Right.
I mean, let's be careful. I mean, our opponents could just take advantage of this to feed into that growing concern, just so that the NDC and its members are reduced in the eyes of the general public. I'm not saying that some of these things are not done by NDC members. I mean, if I wanted to be selfish, I've seen publications that have said that only myself and Samuel Ekujeto Ablakwa resisted money. I could be going in that line to say, well, I didn't take it. There's even publications that say I didn't take it. But how will that serve the party interest? It will not. Mm-hmm. So I'm saying that, look, let us be very careful at how we accuse each other. I haven't seen, anybody take money. I have questions about why certain things happen. I'm not happy that they happened, but I'm not quick to assume that those things happened because some people took money.
Right.
It may as well be that they had different, reasons as to why they did that and not money. I think we should credit people with some level of integrity. Just as I believe I have integrity, I want to believe that my colleague members of parliament have the same integrity. They may have made certain decisions that I do not understand, but it will be unfair for people to assume that they were influenced by money when we don't have evidence of it. Please, if we have evidence of it, I will want such members of parliament to be, taken very far away from our democracy.
Right.
But we don't have that evidence yet. So let us be very careful. Let us be very mindful of how this, wild allegations can also affect the fortunes of the party moving forward. And remember, it is not in the interest of the opposition for us to have a strong NDC. And so some of them could just even create all kinds of accounts and join this bandwagon of accusing every person NDC. What we did or what happened is not defensible. I understand why people don't even want to listen to us anymore. I understand why we are disgusting, because what happened was disgusting.
Right.
But it does not mean, or it's not fair for us to accuse people of things that we don't have evidence of. Because you see, the ministers that we even recommended for rejection, I mean, if we did that without any evidence, we would have been unfair to them. We did that based on evidence and based on, the issues that we had with them. And so, please, I will appeal, even as we are still very disgusting and you don't want to listen to us, I'll still appeal to your love for the NDC and your love for democracy to be measured in your condemnation of what happened, so that after all of this, we will rise as a stronger, alternative to the party. And trust me, members of parliament, especially on the NDC side, are concerned. They are concerned about what is happening, and they think that the reaction is fair. It is just the extremes that we are all worried about, and that is what gives me hope that moving forward, when we have to take another decision, nobody is going to take it lightly.
Right.
Nobody is going to think that people will not care what I do. After all, if I vote for him or her because it's my friend, people won't care. People now know that the world cares, that the people of Ghana care.
Right.
And so I'm sure that will be guided in doing the right thing moving forward. That's all I can say about the allegations of bribery and payment of money.
But what you're saying seems to have touched somebody. Enno Chirel says, that is why we must all find it in our hearts to forgive them and pray that nothing of the sort happens again.
Amen.
Right.
And somebody asked if the MPP were in our shoes. I it's something I've contemplated even before, the voting, and I know that this country would have been close to ungovernable if they were in our shoes.
Right.
If they had the numbers we had. I mean, I've said, for example, that if after the 2012 elections, when they went to court, they had the kind of numbers that we had, maybe President Mahama wouldn't have been able to even form a government. Not even members of Council of State would have been constituted. I mean, if they had the Speaker of Parliament, who has to be consulted before the Council of State members. I mean, you can just imagine. But that's what makes us different. Sometimes it is not very palatable to our supporters. But truly speaking, sometimes I have said, if we're also going to behave the way they behave, maybe we wouldn't have had a Ghana to so much cherish and work towards. It is disappointing sometimes for our supporters and our die-hard members, but we must always strive to be different. We must be different. Yes, I think that we should have rejected some ministers, but I'm saying that if they were in our shoes, I don't think we would have been able to form a government. And that wouldn't have been right also.
Right. I want to read a few of the WhatsApp messages as well. This one says, Amma, tell Nabu Suhini that for our pride, we want the head of the finance minister. And this is from Fred. This is from Fred. Right.
like that.
This one says, ask him if Speaker knew that the NDC members were not up to 160. His name is Eric Akulache from Takrade. This one says, Suhini, you have said it all. The government has nothing good for Ghanaians because he chooses to do what he does to help this country. And this one says, tell him we have come to realize that they can only back, but they can't bite. And we thank them for supporting corruption. 2024 is just around the corner. We will substitute them all. You didn't add your name. Right. Okay, so a lot of people are asking about if the allegations are true. Good evening to you and to the Honorable Suhini. We have expressed our displeasure about the conduct of some of our MPs. But knowing who Suhini is and his background, he's one of those we can caution, but not to doubt his ability. We in Tamale North constituency are proud of him. His name is Idrisu Abdul Samed, Branch Communication Officer, Nyashengu RC Primary School.
Yeah.
Right. This one says, my sister, good evening. The minority MPs disappointed Ghana, but they disappointed Ghana, not NDC.
Yeah.
But there are more days ahead, and many of the NDC MPs will suffer in future elections should they fail to make amends. As for the Speaker, he should be mindful of the kind of praises he receives from the President and the MPP so that he will not fall victim to the tricks of the MPP, as Papa J and Martin Amidu suffered for dining with the NPP. His name is Akapa Michael Adombila, President of the Ghana Ambassadors for Standard Justice and Security. Right, this one says, Amma, sometimes people are hypocrites when NDC won Speaker of Parliament through the secret vote. We said the secret voting is important. Now I know. Right. Okay. Right. You can write for me. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. This one. Wow, that's a lot. Good evening. The Honorable Al Hassan Suhini this time is not convincing me. The day the NDC members on the committee communicate the leaders, right. Okay, he should accept they have woefully failed. Yeah. They are human, but right, he should explain. He should be honest. Okay, you change all of them, right? And your name is Kweku in Kokomlimle. Okay, this one is from Joseph Inteshi. He says the NDC has really disappointed Ghanaians greatly. We as Ghanaians will now not be NDC again. Okay, right. So the same theme runs through those who are saying that yes, indeed, we have been disappointed, but let's give you another chance. Those who are saying that we will not give you another chance. Look at the messages. That's the same theme.
Wow.
Yes, running through. What's the way forward? Because our time is up. What's the way forward? How are you going to repair this damage? Redeem yourselves and forge ahead.
We are currently discussing that. I am happy the party has indicated that they will be setting up a committee to look into what went wrong and what happened. I saw the release by Mr. Kekra Samoa, I think over the weekend, and I am looking forward to that committee coming up with recommendations that will guide even the selection of even committee members in Parliament, because we've never really had, any guide as to how MPs, are to relate with the party. So I hope that this process will help in having laid down engagement procedures between party and Parliament. So I think that we will come out of this stronger. We will come out of this better. It's a very bad time for members of Parliament on the NDC side, and we brought it upon ourselves. We can't blame anybody else for it, because we had the opportunity to do better and we failed, and the people are disappointed. And I see that it's not just NDC members who are disappointed. I know the expectations that people in civil society, people in business had, in our ability to send a signal that we were going to have a say in this Parliament, and also a way, even as a minority. So the reaction is welcome. but let us be very guided that we do not in the end cause an implosion of the party that we so much love. We may be so focused on, exacting our pound of flesh, and in the end we will bleed the party to death. Right. Let us give our members of parliament the benefit of the doubt and understand that there are still more decisions, many decisions that this government will be taking moving forward, and we still have the ability to make amends. And I believe that we'll be guided by this frustration, by this disappointment, by this anger in the next decision that we are going to take, and we will also be guided by the national interest. Once again, I want to apologize to all lovers of democracy who have been very disappointed in the outcome of the voting process, especially that led to the approval of the president's nominees. I do so on my behalf, and I do so on behalf of my colleagues, because I know how we all feel. I don't even think that those who voted for the NPP are any better, because the guilty mind is full of scorpions, So I'm sure we'll do better.
Right. Unfortunately, our time is up, but I cannot leave here without giving special mention to Sparks Juice Drink. You can, if the camera can zoom in nicely. This is Sobolo.
So lovely.
Sobolo, yes, this is Sobolo. It's all for you, Honorable, all for you.
Thank you.
This is Sobolo, and it has different varieties. This is regular, but I know that they have different fruits. This is mango, there's passion fruit, there's ginger, different varieties, really nicely well packaged. It is on the market. Go grab yours. I'd also like to say thank you to ATL Fabrics for always sponsoring the show, giving me these beautiful fabrics, and to Debbie Frimpong for making my lovely dresses. Also, thank you to you, Lady Chi, for the makeup as well. Honorable, thank you so much. Pleasure for making time to be here this evening. And yes, we are watching you.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes.
Keep watching us.
We are watching you.
It's good. It will help us to do better.
Absolutely.
Right.
So thank you for watching the show. Thank you for watching us on Facebook and on YouTube. Thank you for sending in your comments and your views on Facebook, on WhatsApp. And I've seen all the complaints about Pan-African TV not being on the digital platform. Please rescan your TV set. Rescan your TV sets. We've been having these complaints from morning, and I think that we have lost the frequency that we had, but we are not off data. We are still there. So just rescan. Don't expect to see us on the same number. The number might have changed. If you had us at 99, probably you have us at 100 something. So just rescan and look through, and you will find us, because we are still very much on digital, on multi-TV, on RCS, sometimes even on GoTV. Have a lovely evening. We'll see you tomorrow.